Center is live post UFC 276. I am Alex Stano, and yeah, it was on paper the most stacked card of the year. And folks, sometimes the cards that don't look great over deliver, or in this case, most stacked card of the year, unfortunately under delivered. But we saw two champions defend their belts at the top of the card. I am joined alongside, as always, by Jonathan Ramlakan. Hello, Jonathan.
How you doing? Decent night of fights. Not my favorite night overall, but hey, Adesanya got the win, so I'm pretty happy.
I know you are. Frank Zaffrey down below. How you doing, Frank?
I'm great. I'm recovered from all the Bacardi I drank watching the fight, so I'm ready to go.
Well, at least you're nice and lubed up. The liver was good for that main event. So okay, Israel Adesanya. People describe this as a snoozer. His decision win over Jared Cannonier, and I was fearing this. And I'm going to start with Jonathan Ramakan because he's the biggest Israel Adesanya fan I know. So Izzy, now it's been 4 straight fights in a row for him, including the loss up a weight class to Jan Blachowicz that have been some slightly better than others, but uneventful decision victories or decision losses in the case of the Blachowicz fight. And people are starting to wonder, is he now fighting too safe? Is he turning into too much of a point fighter? Is Adesanya not living up to that electric potential that we know he has? Now, bro, I'm going to stick up for your guy here, Jonathan, because I always go out of my way to remind people that it takes 2 people to fight. Okay. And if you clearly have the ability as a champion where you have a lot to protect and all you have to do is just be better than the other guy and he can't challenge you and you don't need to put your jaw and your livelihood in a significant amount of risk to get that victory, I put more of the blame on Jared Cannonier and a handful of these previous opponents that just cannot push Israel Adesanya into enough danger. Okay, so listen, would I have much preferred Adesanya to fight like one of my beloved Diaz brothers and just go for it no matter what? But hey, there's probably a reason why the Diaz brothers haven't spent nearly as much time with gold around their waist than Israel Adesanya has, who's just defended his title for the 5th time. So maybe Frank has a different answer because he's not quite as biased towards the last style bender. But Jonathan, I will start with you, my friend. How much of the blame do you put on Izzy? And do you worry he's not fighting motivated enough these days?
I'd probably put 25-30% of the blame on Izzy. You know what I mean? Like you said, he is the most highly paid superstar in the UFC. I think he passed Conor, or it's number 2, one of the two. But Iridium Sports is definitely getting those guys paid. But he's one of the most technically proficient fighters. And like you said, he has gold around his waist. It's up to the challenger to go out of their way and make this a fight. You have to go and take the belts from the champion. That's what your job is. And for Jared Cannonier, a guy that's been aggressive, a guy that's been knocking dudes out, he was fighting a technical fight. Why is Jared Cannonier fighting a technical fight? Why is he pressing him up against the cage and not really even attempting to drop down to the hips for takedowns? Like, he was doing things in this fight that really confused me and that really just set me back on what I thought this matchup was going to be. He wasn't out there swinging really heavy. There was a few shots that he did land on Adesanya, but the footwork of Adesanya was too good and kept him out of the danger. So like you said, Alex, the name of the game for Adesanya in these fights was risk mitigation. He wants to mitigate the risk from these power punchers like Blachowicz, which he did end up losing because he was being a little bit too tentative and a little too hesitant with the power. And in this fight, again, just a lot better with the leg kicks, with the teep kicks, and a beautiful jab all night long right down the middle. And he did a good job defending his belt. Am I a little upset? Of course. I want to see my favorite fighter put on a fucking show. Excuse my language. But at the end of the day, he did get the win. He got to defend his belt, and he's going to have an up-and-coming challenge with Alex Pereira coming up soon.
Look, I don't care if he's going to be careful. I don't care if Adesanya's going to try to make you come take the belt from him. He can do that. But don't talk shit all week about how you're going to let the world know your greatness.
That's a great
point. Tell
me
all fucking week about how spectacular you are, and you're just going to let it all go against Jared Cannonier. He's full of shit. We heard the same thing against Yoel Romero. I mean, it's like a broken record. He is the 185 version of GSP. More power to him. It's going to be hard to get that belt from him. I'm not suggesting he doesn't have that kind of talent, but I am going to say this. I'm going to sound like that grumpy old man that's tired of hearing about LeBron because he grew up with Michael Jordan. I'm going to say this. Anderson Silva, Adesanya's not even in that league. He's not even in that league because Anderson Silva was on a reign of dominance and he was finishing people. He was embarrassing them. He was destroying them.
Anderson Silva had a stretch. He had a stretch where he was boring. Do you remember like the Patrick Cote, Talis? No, it was like 2 or 3 fights. Yeah, Damian Maya, Patrick Cote, Talis Latis. That's 3 right there. Where everyone was like, man, does Anderson Silva, does he just
Okay.
have zero motivation left? He went through a stretch like the one Izzy's going through.
Izzy's been on that stretch. Yeah, he lives on that stretch, except for fighting the bloated Brazilian. What's his name? Paulo
Yeah,
Costa.
Costa.
I mean,
Paulo
yeah, I
Costa.
mean, and he almost I thought he almost lost to Kelvin Gastelum.
Yeah.
So it's like, so he was made to look human kind of early. He's a breathtaking fighter. I agree, but I'm just tired of hearing about what he's going to do, and then he doesn't do it.
I think Frank made the best point though, because the thing that did annoy me about Adesanya is the entire, and you always have to do this fight week, I guess, but GSP never did this. Like GSP never came out. It's like, yes, I'm going to knock him out. I'm going to kill him and murder him. No, GSP never talked trash like that. But you always knew he was going to deliver very careful, tactical fights. Whereas Adesanya, he plays the media game so well, but every time he steps in there, he makes me believe, okay, now it's going to be style bender again. Now he's going to knock somebody out. And then after the fight's over, he and his coaches have to come out with these excuses for why he didn't look his best. So, like, I'm a little bit tired of that. So I agree with Frank. Like, I agree with Jonathan, and I agree with Frank, because I believe those 2 points can be mutually exclusive.
And to
Go ahead.
continue on that point, I mean, he came out with the Undertaker's theme song, and that was probably the most entertaining
Oh
part of
my
the entire
That was the
fight.
best part of the
To be
fight.
honest, like as a
But
huge,
I'm sorry, I was just going to say, John, that's a great point. You
Yeah.
can't do that and then mail it in.
yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. You come out with the best, Undertaker entrance, the legendary WrestleMania streak before he lost to Brock Lesnar, all these things. He had the Jared name on the urn. He did the hat flip in the eye, but UFC messed up the camera angles. We won't talk about
Oh,
that. And
yeah.
it was like I said, his entrance was probably more entertaining than the fight.
Now I'm going to start though. I'm going to start believing though again for the next one that the next one's going to be the entertaining fight, just because I know, again, putting it on the opponent, I know his next opponent, Alex Pereira, who's got, first of all, the style to push Izzy, and also the confidence, because he's got 2 wins over Israel Adesanya in kickboxing. So that's got to give him some sort of a mental edge to think that he can get this done. So I believe that Alex Pereira can be the guy maybe to make Izzy more exciting, or possibly even take the belt from Izzy. We'll see how it goes. But and obviously, Jonathan, that or Frank, I'll start with you on this one, because I don't want to be neglecting the Zaf, because Frank always brings ratings. Um, this is perfect. You couldn't have written a better story than this. And it was going to be either Pereira or Strickland, whoever won their fight, and Pereira wins it by knockout, which I think is great, because it's such a sellable next fight for Israel Adesanya, because these two guys have the built-in history and the built-in drama of being opponents in a different combat sport in the past. But that just sets up for what should be really good promotion for their fight coming up.
Yeah, initially when this hype train started, very, very quickly, I thought, like, what's how is this happening? And then I was reminded when I saw the rankings during the pay-per-view last night that there isn't nearly as much depth or scariness in the division right now. And credit to Adesanya that he's cleaned it out a bit or sent people in other directions. So, this guy's appearance is perfectly timed. And then taking out the number 4 guy the way he did, he embarrassed him. I was really, really impressed. And, I don't know. I feel like he has that aura a little bit that Anderson Silva had. He's no nonsense. He's not talking trash. He just is an intimidating, mystique laden beast from another sport who's decided to step in here and lay waste to anyone he faces. And I cannot wait for that fight. And I'm going to be honest, I can't wait for that fight, because I think it'll be the first time in a long time we'll have seen Adesanya fight. And I think seeing those two fight at the levels they're capable of fighting will be spectacular.
See, this is where I kind of disagree a little bit. Like, I do think this fight can end in a finish, but these are like the most technical of the technical guys. Like, this is going to be a chess match at the highest level. And if we've been seeing chess matches with, high level versus low level, when you're looking at Adesanya versus, Cannonier trying to play chess with him,
Right.
Vittori trying to play chess with him, Whitaker trying to play chess with him. Pereira is much high level chess player when it comes to the striking with Adesanya. So I could see this being a high level tactical kickboxing match. I'm not sure if this is going to be a super exciting fight, but what I do know is that the lead up to this fight is going to be super exciting, because Alex Pereira is a legitimate threat. Like, he legitimately has the skills to make Izzy lose this title and be the first person that really convinces me that he can do so at 185. So it's going to be interesting to see if he actually comes out there, brings a little more offense out of Adesanya, draws him out a little bit more, because we know Adesanya is good at drawing out his opponent's attacks with his feints. We got to see the same thing with Pereira. He was doing it very early in that minute and a half before he knocked Sean Strickland out, drawing out the feints, drawing out the moves. And if Alex can do the same thing out of Adesanya, it'll be an interesting fight.
Now, in the co-main event, domination by the champion Alex Volkanovski against the challenger Max Holloway. And my friends, I thought history was made last night because to me, Alex Volkanovski has cemented himself as the greatest featherweight of all time. And I say that with all due respect to Jose Aldo. I believe Volko has become the next guy. He has just taken that torch from Jose Aldo. And so, okay, I want you guys to weigh in on that. And I'll start with Jonathan. Is Volkanovski now, has he stamped his claim to being the best featherweight of all time? And for his next fight, I agree with Volk. I think it makes sense for him, given his dominance, the state of the division right now, and the fact that he says he wants to stay active. So allow him to move up in weight, to challenge, it's a vacant belt right now, but you let him and Charles Oliveira fight for the vacant lightweight belt. Give him an opportunity to become a champ, because I think Volkanovski has earned that. That would be really interesting because Volk is going to give up a lot of height to that division, but he's got freakish reach for his height. Like he's got the reach of a guy like 5-6 inches taller than he is. So I'm curious to see what he can do at lightweight, but I think he's earned that opportunity. What do you think, Jonathan?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I mean, the dude's on a 21 fight win streak. He has, like you said, a very, very good reach. And this is a man that's come down all the way from north of 200 pounds down to fight at 145. So he does carry that little extra power with him. And we saw that power difference in the fight with Max. Like he landed some really, really good shots. And talking about that performance against Max Holloway, this is the worst. Well, this is the worst that I've seen someone make look Max Holloway ever. Like, I've never seen someone dominate Max Holloway the way I saw Alexander Volkanovski do it. And the way I saw him do it, the distance management, the way he was just able to control distance and range, the way he was able to counter strike and be more accurate with the counter striking. And on top of that, just his head movement as well. Like he was able to stay out of the volume of Max Holloway and just make him think. Like Max Holloway throws without even thinking. And in this fight, he was outstriking Max Holloway. Like you don't see many people out volume Max Holloway. So this fight was a great fight. I do think he is now the featherweight GOAT. I mean, when you beat Max Holloway 3 times, you have the reign of terror that you have. You're defending your belt. You're undefeated in the UFC. There's a lot of things going for you. Your resume speaks for itself. Now, speaking about moving up to 155, I definitely think that's a fun matchup for him. I think it's interesting, especially if he's fighting Charles Oliveira, an ex-145 pounder. This is going to be an interesting matchup because I do think he probably has a little more power than Oliveira. I'm not sure how the speed matches up as far as the hand speed because the hand speed for Oliveira is really good. We know the submission game is ridiculous, but we've seen Alexander Volkanovski get away from Brian T. City a couple times. Not saying he can do the same thing with the guy with the most subs in the UFC, but he has that mental fortitude and he has that octagon IQ. So I wouldn't leave it past him to get that second champion and become a double champion here in the UFC.
Well, first question is Volkanovski the featherweight GOAT? I don't know what I can say he is. I don't know. I struggle with it only because I think we say he is because he's beaten Max Holloway 3 times, but I'm not sure I would have said Max Holloway is the GOAT. Okay. So I don't know how I would do that math. And as much shit as I give Conor McGregor, I might say that he's the best featherweight I've ever seen. And if he had stayed there, I think he would be on a reign of dominance. And I think he could beat somebody like Volkanovski. I think Conor McGregor at 145, had he stayed active, could have beaten that guy. I mean, I know I'm not sure I'm ready to say GOAT, but I am going to say this. He's the best the league's got right now. There's nobody in the division that can touch him. He's destroyed Max Holloway. I kind of saw that coming because in the second fight, Max made some adjustments. Volkanovski in the fight corrected those, took care of it. So I felt like Max was coming in this fight with no options. Like, you've seen everything I can do. Now I'm just hoping that I can out cardio you. And he couldn't. He got beat up. So now the only move for Volkanovski is lightweight. I agree with that. He deserves to go there. But I don't think he's going to have very much success there. His success right now is the same success that Conor had at that division, et cetera, where, he's the bigger, stronger guy. These guys, when you go up that 10 pounds, you guys know this, these guys are much, much bigger men. Yeah. So all that muscle that Volkanovski carries, and by the way, he's a little short, right? Yeah. All that muscle and now being a little bit stature undersized, I mean, he's going to get Charles Oliveira, that'd be the easiest fight Charles Oliveira could get.
Well, and also
So
like, and then sorry to cut you off, but in
that's
the
all right.
perspective of Oliveira, like he's going to try to push for a fight with Conor McGregor, and like as big as the Volkanovski fight would be, that's a bigger fight to Volkanovski than it is to Charles Oliveira. So I wonder how much resistance Charles would put up to it.
Yeah, and I wonder what are they going to do with him, because Volkanovski would deserve to go for a title shot right away, right? I
Yeah.
mean, he wouldn't have to take a fight to get to that fight. So you're right. I mean, there's some options for Oliveira, particularly Conor McGregor, that are better. So I don't know. I don't know. Volkanovski might be sitting around for a while, but there's nobody for him to fight at 145. Nobody.
Yeah, anything, Jonathan, to add to that? That if and listen, I don't know exactly what the UFC would do. Maybe they would just let Oliveira fight Connor and put the belt on the line in a different fight, which I guess would be odd because Oliveira is the uncrowned lightweight champion. But like, I mean, if you're Charles Oliveira, for as big as like a champ versus champ fight Volkanovski would be, I think still he would probably say the Conor McGregor fight would make me more money than the Volkanovski fight.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Charles Oliveira, you're looking to take care of your family at the end of
Yeah.
the day, right? You want to make the most money. You're going to try to fight Conor McGregor. With all due respect to Alexander Volkanovski, all three of us know that he's definitely a top 2, top 3 featherweight of all time. Casual fans probably don't even know who he is, and they'll know who Conor McGregor is. And if you want to make a draw, if you want to make the most money, you try to call out Conor McGregor. Like, that's just the key to success there. Everybody's done it, from Michael Chandler to, the guys coming up the rankings. They all try to call out Conor McGregor just because he's the money draw. So I do think for Charles Oliveira, that would be the most ideal matchup, because it'd also be a pretty easy fight, in my opinion, to get the win against Conor.
Yeah.
But to Frank's point, thinking about it, he has good Muay Thai, right? He has really good knees up the middle. I'm curious how a guy with that height and those knees up the middle would affect a shorter guy like Volkanovski, because those knees can come up real quick and end your night. And we saw what he did to the body of Dustin Poirier. We saw what he did in that Muay Thai clinch when Justin Gaethje gassed out. Like, he's dangerous in the striking, and that Muay Thai that he has is super good too. So those knees, those elbows can really do some damage, especially as Volkanovski tries to close the distance. So I do think Conor is the bigger fight. I do think that Volkanovski and sorry, I'm missing the name right now.
Oh,
Oliveira?
Oliveira, there we go. Him and Oliveira, it would be a very good matchup, but I do think Oliveira probably get the best of him.
Now, I thought, guys, last thing I want to touch on, I thought a performance of the night bonus should have been given to Nate Diaz. I know that technically Nate was not fighting on this card, but this is and you guys can help me debate whether this was real or staged. I'd like to think it's real because I don't feel like Nate Diaz is the type of guy who's like coordinating stuff like with the hey, like reporter says, wouldn't it be really fun if you assault me when I interview you? So apparently Nate and this interviewer maybe have some history, some bad blood on social media. I don't know anything about it, but watch this clip. And Frank, I'll start with you. Does this look staged at all to you?
OG was full on MMA. Look, he just pulled up on us. What's up with it? Stark's finest, Nate Diaz, is coming to check out Sugar Sean, right? No, you tell me what you feel about my interview. Oh, I know.
The Stockton slap. Oh my God, I love it. The Stockton slap. Zaf, your thoughts?
No, it's not staged, but mostly it can't be staged. He just doesn't have the attention span for staging. That would require him to
Yeah.
remember something that was said to him 10 minutes previously. So
That's
no,
true.
I just think he just does whatever he wants to do. I love him holding the media accountable, though. It's great to see.
I know. I love that. I love that. What about you, Jonathan? What'd you make of
Yeah,
that?
I don't think it's staged. It seems like he was down for this interview. Breaking it down play by play, I'm gonna give you a quick play by play. Guy goes up to Nate Diaz. Looks like he has a interview question. Asks him something about Sean O'Malley.
Yeah.
Seems to piss off Nate Diaz for some reason. Hits him with a nice left hand. Oh, there we go. We're getting a little bit of play by here. I think before the right hand, he actually hits him with a
He
with a
hits
little
the
left.
mic first, I think.
Yeah, he hits the mic first out of his hand. Then he pops him with a right hand that actually sends the hat flying back to the right direction. So we have to think about the projectile force. Look at that. The hat comes off beautifully. If there would have been more impact on there, it hit the chin, he would have been down, and that would have been it, just like Leon Edwards at the end of the 5th round.
Oh man, so there you go. Always keeping it real, Nate Diaz. I love it. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this episode. I hope everyone, enjoyed UFC 276, despite the fact that it may not have delivered as many pre-4th of July fireworks as we'd hoped. For Jonathan Ramlakan and for Frank Zaffrey, I am Alex Dono. I want to remind you a couple things before you get out of here. Smash the like button on this video. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe. If you're watching us on 5 Reasons Sports YouTube, fantastic, but we also simulcast on our dedicated combat sports channel called Combat Center. So if you're interested in only combat sports content and more combat content, you want to make sure to hit the follow button on Combat Center on YouTube. It's not just these shows that we do together. There's bonus content, a lot of it from Jonathan Ramlakan that goes out on that channel as well. So make sure you subscribe to Combat Center. Go ahead, Johnny.
Yeah, all the PFL playoffs are live, right? PFL regular season is done, so every single interview during the regular season is going to be going up until over the next couple of weeks. I got a couple, about like 20, 25 interviews, so I'm going to throw those up on there.
All right, everyone have a wonderful July 4th. We will talk to you midweek next week on another episode of Combat Center and on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. See